The People Station, 104.7 WLOU. Streaming live at WLOUFM.com. Some soulful season's greetings from the Jackson 5. Try saying that 3 times fast. Good morning. How you doing? It's 8:42. Mark Gunn live in Louisville. And do not forget, speaking of the holidays, if you are a business owner and you need a little bit of help when it comes to getting employees, you need to take advantage of the WLOU On-Air Job Fair. This is a resource that you can use to help find the right people for the right jobs and the right jobs for the right people. Just give us a call at 502-776-1240 or go to our website at WLOUFM.com, all right? Coming up in just a few minutes, another Wave News update for you. Big changes coming to the Metro that we'll tell you about. We got another look at total traffic. But with this being the holidays, one of the things that has become rampant is fraud, and it comes in many different forms. And because of that, the Federal Trade Commission is in our city this afternoon to basically hold a forum about some things that you can do in order to not become a victim of it. And in the studio with me this morning is Joannie Wei, who is the Assistant Director of the Federal Trade Commission, the Midwest region. Joannie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Well, welcome to Louisville, first of all.
Beautiful city.
And I know that Louisville or Kentucky is one of the cities that your region covers.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so we were talking just before we went on the air about this uptick in all kinds of fraud. And it was so much to the point to where you guys had to come to, you're basically doing a tour.
Yes.
To talk to people about it, right?
Yes. Fraud has increased exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
So between 2020 and 2021, the amount of fraud losses that people reported to the FTC went up 70%. And in 2021, the losses were $5.8 billion that people reported.
5.8 billion.
Billion with a B, yes. That people reported in losses due to fraud. And in Kentucky specifically, we received in 2021 48,500 complaints about fraud.
Wow.
And ID theft and many other issues. It's a huge problem. It was a huge problem before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
During the pandemic, skyrocketed, and now it's
even worse.
It's even worse, yes. And we are here because we want to talk about fraud.
Mm-hmm.
The more we talk about it, the more people are aware of it, and the more they can spot, avoid, prevent it from happening.
Oh, and by means of full disclosure, because I'm in the room with the government, this segment is being paid for by the Federal Trade Commission, so I have to legally say that. So there you go. So, all right. So with the prevalence of fraud and this uptick, what kinds of fraud, or what kinds of fraud are you actually seeing?
That's a great question. It is such a broad range. So first of all, I just want to say that fraud isn't something that just impacts some people.
Mm-hmm.
It comes at all of us from all different directions in our daily lives. We get the texts, we get the emails, we get the phone calls, we get the mail.
Mm-hmm.
My mother-in-law just the other day, a couple days ago, called me, and she thought she was the victim of a scam. Somebody called her from Amazon. Supposedly, something was wrong with her account.
Right.
They gave her the last 4 digits of her credit card, so she thought, oh, that is the card I have used for Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
This is Amazon. And she went down a rabbit hole and almost gave away her bank and personal information. It's not, it happens to people. It happens to everyone. We all know somebody who's been impacted by fraud. And the kinds of fraud, it's varied, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's identity theft.
Right.
A huge problem, one of the largest complaint report categories that we get at the FTC. But there's another major one. The number one reported fraud from 2021 was imposter fraud. Imposter/impersonation.
Mm-hmm.
That is, somebody pretends to be someone else. So pretends to be the government,
right.
the Social Security Administration,
right.
Medicare,
right.
The IRS on your taxes. And they scare people.
Mm-hmm.
They alarm you into thinking that you need to turn over information or money.
Right.
And it's a huge problem. And it's not just government. It's like I mentioned, Amazon calling
Mm-hmm.
you. It's Apple. People pretending to be Amazon, pretending to be Apple, pretending to be your utility company.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's across the pretending to be Best Buy. Something happened with your order. You need to click on this link and put in information. Your bank. We've all gotten the bank email. Like you have to verify something about your bank account.
Jeez.
We have to be. Yeah,
And there are steps that you can take. Now, the email scam, I know intimately, having a little bit of an IT background. There's some things that you can look for when it comes to fraudulent emails. One, you want to check the email address.
100%.
Chances are it's misspelled, or it's a link to something that is just 3 shades of crazy.
Yes.
You want to check the date. You actually want to check grammar and punctuation as well.
Absolutely.
So every little thing like that is concerned. Phone numbers with caller ID. Cell phone companies have gotten better about being able to detect scam calls, or at least suspect scam calls. But it's the ones that kind of come off as legitimate that are the ones that are problematic.
Exactly. For example, they'll use an area code that you're familiar with. You're like, oh, this must be my XYZ, fill in the blank, some business that you have dealings with. And so you answer the phone. Or, what you mentioned, the emails. A lot of these scammers are professional scammers. They make the email look good.
Yes.
They have the Bank of America logo. They have whatever the logo, whatever. They make it look polished. It's only if you look a little closer and you unhide the email address that you see some strange email address. If you look closely at the language, you'll notice something slightly off.
And I'll tell you what, let us pay some bills here, because you've got some steps that can be taken in order to prevent you from becoming a victim of fraud. So keep it right here. We've got more with Joannie Wei in a minute. 104.7 WLOU.
Building Solution.
The People Station, 104.7 WLOU, streaming live at WLOUFM.com. The segment being brought to you by the Federal Trade Commission. We are talking with Joannie Wei, who is the Assistant Director of the Midwest region, talking about the prevalence and the uptick in fraud. A little bit ago, we were talking about some of the types of fraud that are out there, but we started talking about ways that you can watch out and prevent yourself from becoming a victim of fraud, right?
Yes.
For instance, we talked about the email thing, what to look out for with their cell phones. Telephone fraud seems to be something that is especially problematic for folks. Somebody gets a phone call, they think it's a number that they know, and all of a sudden they've been hit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to be very wary of who's calling you. Do not answer the phone if it's not a number that you know or expect. And they will trick you with these area codes that you're familiar with, or phone numbers that may seem familiar, but don't answer it. That's 100% like the top thing you need to remember about phone scams. You just don't answer the phone.
And one of the ways that you can prevent those, there are services that you can get. Some of your cell phone companies will provide them. Personally, I use a service called Nomo Robo that I've used for a few years that is pretty good at blocking those calls. Also, you will also see from time to time, depending on your carrier, a phone number that'll say number verified. That can be tricky too, so watch out for that. So the recommendation in that end is, and this is going to take some work on your part, is to make sure that every number that you have in your phone has been identified, that has some sort of caller ID associated with it. Because if somebody comes up, even with a caller ID, like yesterday, I got a call from somebody whose name I had no idea who it was. And I'm like, no.
The spoofing still happens.
Yes, spoofing.
Yes. Where you can't always trust what pops up on your ID.
Right.
So I do the same as you. I do program in dentist, doctor, school, etc. And so, because I found myself wondering, is this the school nurse? It looks like the school number. Is someone calling about my kid? And then you answer and no. And then once you answer a call, a telemarketing call or spam call or robocall, and you say something, you are put on a list. Or even when you answer, I think, you're put on a list and then you will be targeted further. You'll get a barrage of calls after that.
And what's even more insidious is that some of these companies will record your responses. They're looking for you to say words like yes or okay, things to the affirmative that can be used in another fraudulent attempt down the road.
Absolutely.
So, and now with that, and you were talking, And you were saying that an unusual amount of fraud is happening to younger people using their cell phones.
Yes, absolutely. Traditionally, people thought, well, it's older adults who are targeted because, they're easier, quote unquote, easier targets. But what we're seeing with the numbers more and more is that younger people, younger and older, are being impacted tremendously by fraud. Young people are used to conducting transactions online, using their phones via apps, and they conduct transactions quickly, right? And they'll just do things, and they may trust online businesses that they shouldn't be trusting. And it's one characteristic of scams or fraud. One major characteristic that you almost always see is sort of emergency, time sensitive, right? There's always this push for you to act right away because whatever it might be, you might be, for a young person buying something online.
Right.
It's a limited time sale. You got to get this right now. There's 2 left. There's 1 left. And then they push the button and they buy it. And it's a company that either doesn't send you the product or sends you something defective. You can never contact customer service. Once you've gone down that hole and paid and put your credit card in, you're charged and that's it. And so, what I like to tell people is it's not, you think it's just certain, I know better.
Right.
No,
but still.
Everybody is impacted. Young people as well. People who are tech savvy, yes, they are impacted in high numbers.
And, legitimate businesses, you mentioned Amazon, quote unquote Amazon. There are some businesses that will just not call you out of the blue. There's no reason for them to be proactive in calling you.
Exactly.
Because of the nature of their particular business. No legitimate business is going to ask you for your social security information or your banking information over the phone.
That's right. There's like a very black line that in terms of a very clear-cut rule on government. So government won't call you and ask you for information.
Right.
That's Social Security Administration, the IRS, Medicare, the CMS. They won't call you and ask you for information. They won't text you, and they won't. So anytime you get that, immediately ignore it. If someone's calling you saying they're from the government, that's not going to happen. And then you're right about businesses. Amazon's not going to call you and tell you someone charged $500 on your account.
Right.
And so you have to be immediately suspicious of that. What I tell people is if you get a call or a request from someone or about something you didn't expect, you got to be immediately suspicious. And if they're asking for any personal or financial information, just pause and be suspicious of that. And it's a terrible thing to have to live like that, but this is the reality. There's so many requests coming at you, and if it's something that you're just like, I didn't expect that, like the Amazon thing, the example we've been using, you have to pause.
Exactly. Now, with this event being here in Louisville, is this open to the public, or how can people be a part of this?
So the event is not open to the public, but what we're trying to do is, so what we've learned through our research and our experience is that fraud is impacting communities differently. Certain communities are impacted by certain frauds. Communities of color are hit really hard with specific fraud. So Black communities, for example, we're hearing a lot about issues with credit bureaus, car buying, banks and lenders, debt collection. So what we're trying to do with this event is the FTC, we don't want to just come to town and start telling everybody, hey, A, B, C, D, you got to know, do this, do that. What we're trying to do is connect and build a partnership with trusted groups and people in the community, like leaders in the community.
Oh, okay.
And then we share information and connect with them with the goal of them kind of going to their communities and saying, hey, listen, we got to watch out for this. This is hitting us hard. This is impacting people and people are losing real money. So listen up. Like, here's some resources, here's some information. And kind of through that way, it's kind of like a train the trainer sort of model.
Gotcha.
Like, we connect with the key stakeholders in the community. And then in that way, we try to reach communities that we traditionally haven't.
Pretty much what we're doing right now. So
yeah, exactly. We're so grateful for this opportunity to talk to your listeners about this important issue.
Now, is there a general website that people can reach out to if they want just basic information, or maybe they have something to report?
Absolutely. We have so much information on the FTC's website.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just want basic general information, consumer.ftc.gov,
Mm-hmm.
you go there and there will be all sorts of categories like buying a car, debt collection, credit, mortgages, student loans, online shopping, whatever it is you're sort of wondering about.
Right.
Like, I'm going to buy a used car. Let me just read over these couple, bullets of important things to remember. And here's links to other resources. It's really a quick but very, very useful exercise, I think.
Okay.
Here's another example, a debt collector's contacting you.
Yes.
Immediately you must pay this or you're going to be, prosecuted, fines, penalties. You get nervous. Go to consumer.ftc.gov, click on debt collection. There's going to be some really useful, easy to digest information. You just read it and say, hey, you know what? First of all, I don't think that's my debt.
Right.
Second of all, when was it charged and what is it for? The notice doesn't give me the information I'm entitled to.
Mm-hmm.
And then and in that way you arm yourself with this information, and then you don't immediately call the phone number. Oh my God, I have to pay this debt.
Right.
Because it's highly likely that it could be abusive, it could be illegal, and it's good for you to know that. Now, if you see an issue, if you've experienced an issue and you want to let the FTC know, which I highly encourage because it's very, very important, go to reportfraud.ftc.gov.
Reportfraud.ftc.gov. Got it.
That's right. And you, on that website, they'll just ask a few basic questions and you report what happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do that, you will get an email or back with some tailored information about whatever it was that you were asking about. Let's say you got something about debt collection and you file a complaint. You will get some information back about that, which I think could be useful. And the other thing about reporting to us is we look at these complaints. We mine our database. We have a database with millions of complaints. We look for patterns. Mm-hmm. We look for trends. We look for companies and people that might be engaged in problematic practices. And so it's really important for us to hear from all communities. Some communities report to us more than others. Mm-hmm. So that's another goal. We want everybody to be reporting to us. It's easy to do, and it's really, really important for us to know what's happening.
All right. Important enough for the FTC to be here in Louisville today. So we will be definitely bringing you more as we figure out what's going on. I'm going to be going to the Ali Center in a little bit here just to get a little more information so we can bring it back to you. And again, those websites are consumer.ftc.org.
Oh, .gov.
.gov, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. .gov and reportfraud.ftc.gov. Okay. Joannie, thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. We are the original soul of Louisville, 104.7 WLOU.
It's live in Louisville with Mark Gunn, live from the all-new Withers Automotive Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Lawrenceburg Studios on the People Station, 104.7 FM, 1350 AM, WLOU.